Hello. I'd just like to say, first of all, thank you, Per and Elias, for inviting us to come and speak today. It's my first time in Stockholm, and it's great to be here, so thanks. Perhaps we could just start a little bit by saying who we are and what we do. Jeffrey and I have been working together, making an art project together since 1993. And the first project that we made together was a magazine called Art Fan. And the magazine was a publication that published reviews and responses about contemporary art exhibitions by people who said they didn't know about contemporary art. And that magazine ran for about 10 years and ended up being really quite an interesting piece of research, because what we found was that the people who said that they didn't know about art in fact had a lot of interesting things to say about exhibitions that they saw and installations and other works.
So one of the things that got us thinking about this issue around not knowing was that, in fact, the modern artist tends to say that they don't really know what they're doing, that Jackson Pollock or John Coltrane or people like this would often say, I don't know what I'm doing, or Van Gogh, they would operate by instinct. So we thought that it was an interesting idea that maybe what would happen if the artist doesn't know what they're doing and moves around freely in an ambulant way between different media and roles. At the moment, the audience is expected to know what they think. And so we say, well, what did you think of this talk today? Or what did you think of this exhibition at a museum? Whereas what we thought would be interesting is that what if the audience was allowed to not know, in a sense as well, that we could, in a sense, be in a shared space of not knowing with the audience, that we could not be sure what was happening, and that the being together could be a way of articulating, finding out perhaps what we wanted to say about art and our lives.
And the not knowing became more interesting when we were making workshops with groups of people. We made a lot of workshops with artists and professionals and non-professionals and people who said they didn't know about contemporary art. So often we would begin a workshop by talking about what we didn't know together, and then we would use that as the media, in effect, and the subject matter for the workshop. And
I think the structure of what we're doing today has amplified this kind of feeling, because we're not going to know each other during the whole undertaking of what we're doing, and we can't see each other and we're not sure about each other, yet we proceed and we go on and you keep thinking about what's happening and we keep talking, and we, in a sense, make something together without really being sure of what's happening. And this is the kind of ground, I guess, that we've been talking about with our work. The other thing that we've been interested in is the idea of errors, deceits and mistakes.
We started a magazine a few years ago called Errors, Deceits, Mistakes, and we invited people to make contributions to the publication. And for me, the thing that's quite interesting about that is what I realised is that we only really know ourselves through mistakes. And so this has been, the magazine has been a collection of these disregarded and things that are often hidden in the things that we do. You know, we tend to, if we make a mistake, it's something that we omit from the documentation, or we tend to try and hide in some kind of way. So there was something of interest to bring the errors and mistakes to the foreground and look at them, and then attempt to use them in our work and to keep them, to make them more alive and useful in a sense. And also to use the embarrassment that comes out of making mistakes and keep that as a presence in different works and ways of working. And
I'm not sure how you're hearing our accents today, but you might be making a lot of mishearing out there. You might be creating a lot of mishearing yourselves, because I realise our English is actually, in fact, an Australian English. So the other thing that we just wanted to talk about was the idea of fragmentation, that one of the ideals of modern art was unity. And so this is the kind of thing that we get in the Olympic Games or in art biennales, where we bring everyone together in a sense to think the same thing. And it's the same kind of idea in a sense of self, that there has traditionally been the idea that I can't be divided to know who I am, that I have to be whole, that I can't be thinking two things at once, that I have to decide who I am and make a decision and be, in a sense, a unified self. And what I guess that we've been interested in was the idea that each person perhaps has one sense of presentation at home, one sense on the job, one sense if you go to the council and you have to ask about a parking fee, another one with someone that you care about very much. And so, in a sense, we all have a fragmented self and we behave different ways to different people. And if we were to behave how we would arguing about a parking fine with our mother or father at home, it would in a sense create a crisis. So that unity in some ways can create crisis, and in a way that we can be in a more stable situation as we're fragmented. So out of this, what we wanted to present today was not so much a theoretical position, but what we're going to present to you are what we call 3 case studies. We're going to present, after Predrag does his introduction, we're going to present 3 things that we've been thinking about that we actually call speech objects. And we think about, given the ubiquitousness now of YouTube and the internet, what we're finding is that there's been very, very informal things, and silence and static and things like that have been recorded, and then things that people may have never listened to ever before or even bothered to record, have very trivial things, have been listened to over and over again, and sometimes even become really popular. So the process of repetition, we've been thinking about calling that a speech object, where something that was immaterial, in a sense, takes on a very definite materiality. The other thing that we were thinking about was the idea of time, because in fact we are going to make some visual presentations that you won't see today, but they're being videoed and they'll be seen later, and we're going to be playing for you some recordings through the iPhone, through the microphone, that were made around a week ago. So we're trying to think about this way, about that given our access to all of these locations and time, how we have a different kind of way of thinking. We like to think of the past as being something that's a long way away. There's in fact a really interesting quote by the French metaphysicist and philosopher of science, in fact, Bruno Latour, who spoke about time in this kind of way.
Shall I read it?
Yeah.
We do have a future and a past, but the future takes the form of a circle expanding in all directions. The past is not surpassed, but revisited, repeated, surrounded, protected, recombined, reinterpreted and reshuffled. Elements that appear remote if we follow the spiral may turn out to be quite nearby if we compare loops.